Hello, thank you for joining me again for another watercolour workshop. I've got something rather unusual on the go at the moment and I wondered if you'd like to come and join me. I just think it might be of interest. I want to paint something that's diaphanous and thin. I want to have a go at net. And it's an unusual technique, and when you look at it, it seems to be so difficult, but actually it isn't. Let me show you how easy it is. First though, I've got to say to you, this particular picture, we've got a bit of nudity going on here. So if you feel that you're of a delicate disposition or it might upset you, this is the point to kind of turn off, and I will see you next time. But for now, let's have a look. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Morrigan. I'm very, very interested in English folklore, British folklore actually. And this particular girl, I say, she really was one of them. She was rather a bad girl. She would go and talk to the warriors before battle. She'd butter them up, she'd get them to fight for her cause. And whilst they were fighting, she'd be promising the moon, absolutely promising all sorts of favours. And she would fly over the battlefield watching them. So hence we have these are going to be crow's skulls and feathers. She'd fly over the battlefield as a crow and watch them, leading them on, shouting, cawing at them, telling them to fight on and be strong and brave. And then of course, when everything was all finished, this wretched woman, if they weren't fighting and they weren't as good as she felt that they should be, there was the battlefield, full of ready meals, just lovely for a crow. What a woman, eh? But what I want to do here is introduce some net over her chest. She's got her armour on, her leather armour, but I'd like to kind of make her look appealing, of course, because she had to have something going for her to get all these men fighting for her, and I want to just introduce net here. To be able to do that, to be able to put something diaphanous over the top of something, you have to put in first what was there or what is there. Whether you're doing this with net curtains for a window or you're thinking about using it for a tablecloth, you have to paint the window and the view through it first, and you have to paint the table, whatever is underneath. Therefore, I've got our girl here. Her hair, I'd like to deal with that separately, therefore I've masked this out, and I've just used this lovely thin blue masking fluid. You can buy this everywhere, SAA stock it, but I have to say to you, the thin blue masking fluid, because some of it is a bit thick, and with that I've just masked her hair out and it's gone. Please notice that the edges of this gown, if that's what you want to call it, the top, I have put the shadow underneath already. I've done it, it's in. Because the thing that puts a thing on a thing is the shadow that's under the thing. There's shadows under everything. I've put them in. All I need here is my good old faithful number 8 brush. Love it, use it for everything. This is my Sable number 8, perfect brush. And I have some Payne's Grey. Look at that, lovely colour. The important thing with that is to make sure that you're always using the artist's watercolour, because let's be honest, this bleeds into a blue if you add water, but if you're using Payne's Grey and it is the Cotman colour, the students' colours tend to be a bit tarmac. It's just grey. This is a lovely bluey grey. I want to glaze this figure. She has to be bone dry, and I want to gently lay over the top a thin wash. Lots of water, and we're looking at a very thin consistency of paint. It's much easier to add more layers than it is to take a layer away. There it is, can you see that? Look at that. I'll just go a little bit thinner. I want you to see everything that I do here. With this, I load the brush, put it in the palette and absolutely load it. I'm going to run a wash. No fluffy brushing, and you know what I mean, we're all guilty of it. We go in there and we none of that, because that is what moves the paint that's underneath. Therefore, load the brush and just come in and be brave and be fearless, all right? Just breathe to count, breathe, go in there. We're going to go in and we're going to lay this in on top like that. Right over everything. I'm going to get rid of the drip and then I'm going to come back and just wick it up. Missed a bit, look. And there. Do it again the other side. Here we go, coming in, loading the brush. I'll do this side first, so come in, lovely straight smooth edge like that. More paint, come back. And this is called glazing. This is laying one colour on top of another so that you can see both colours through each other. Thin, thin wash of colour. And you want to dry that. Let's take that, get rid of the drip, pick up that. You know why, don't you? Because if I left that water there, that paint there and here, you would find that that would wick back up into drying paint, and that's where I'd get my cauliflowers. That now has to be dry. I'm going to use a hairdryer. She's dry now, she's dry. And the importance of that is simply the fact that if I were to paint onto wet paint, I'm going to have cauliflowers and it would run. Therefore, when it's bone dry, I can lay colour on top again and this won't move. And that's really important. When are you enjoying this, Neo? The cat's enjoying it too. When we're painting, we need it to be dry. What I'd like to do now is come back into my mixture here and simply add a teeny bit more Payne's Grey. Not a lot, just a little. I want it to be thinner than single cream consistency. That's where I'm going with this. What I want to do now is lay another coat on top. I'm glazing again. This is the second coat of grey. If I come in here now, we'll introduce this and think about where we're going with it. With fabric, we need to consider how it works. Fabric has edges. These edges here that come up and curl over maybe have a seam. So therefore, I want to make that edge darker, like that. I put the colour on, I rinse my brush, I dab the drip from my brush, and then I come in and I gently come down that line to soften it, rinse again, dab again, and this is the brush stroke that will blend it. I will do that down here as well. Let me show you down here. If I come along down through there, like that, I rinse it, I dab it. That's the brush stroke that will keep it moist and wet. I rinse, I dab, and I come back and I blend. Sorted. This here is curving. We're curving in so many different directions. We're going, oh, look at this. Can you see that where I've got that water tide mark? All right, to get rid of that, keep your brush clean, rinse it again, come through, and come through until it just disappears. There you go. Just keep going. You get tide marks with water. Incredible. That's how we paint silk, with water stained silk. This breast is curving round and away from me. Therefore, I want to introduce a shadow round there. It's also curving down and around here, so I'd want shadow down there. Rinse, come in and just blend. Rinse it again, come in and just blend. All right. Thin colour is better than thick at the moment. But to show you how you can darken it, just add a little more Payne's Grey. Just a little more. Do it little at a time. little bit, little bit. And I want to add a shadow up this edge here, up, through and round. I rinse, I dab, and this time I come in from this side. Always, always blend on the side that you want to be lighter. Rinse, dab, come back and just blend through. So, having told you about keeping it dry, I now have to dry it again, otherwise I can make a mess. We have landed up with a few brush marks, and I'm not stressing about those because I can use those now as my creases in this net. And that is simply just using this technique and using it in a different place. I want to take my Payne's grey, and this time I have 2 brushes. I'm just showing off. Don't worry about it. You can do it with 1 brush, but I'm just showing off, speed things up with 2. That's going to be my brush to blend. This is my brush to put on. I need a little bit of my Payne's grey, darker in here, and what I want to do, I have a brush mark right up there. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to do that. And then with my blend brush, simply in and one edge, soften. Pull it to infinity till it's gone. Rinse, dab, come back, get hold of it, pull it, pull it, pull it. Let's do that again. Brushful of paint in here. This time, come away from that, that's wet, don't go near it, go somewhere else. This time, how about something in there? And I get hold of it, and I pull it, and I pull it, and I pull it. And basically, I'm talking about 1 hard edge, 1 soft edge. Leave this side alone. We can pull them down the other way as well. We can get hold of a crease here perhaps, and if I imagine that something's through here, and I can pull that through there. And this time I get hold of it and I pull it down this way. Get hold of it, pull it down. Right, I'll carry on. seriously is where I want to put some real darks. You have to always bear in mind light against dark, dark against light, and it's your darks that make your lights look light and your lights that make your dark look dark. Therefore, with all of this, I need to now be looking at neat Payne's grey, and I want to just trim up, smarten up, and put some very dark, deep areas into this fabric. I'll do some here. And giving that a dip, it makes the fabric curve up over the breast, in and back up again. Okay, so we've come that far. We need to make it even darker now. We need to make it look dark, and we do that by adding a little bit of light. I want to dry it first. Now we look at it before we do this and we decide whether we want to tweak it anymore. Consider Have you got shape? Have you got movement of the fabric with the curves? Is there enough shading? Well, funnily enough, I don't think there's enough down here. Therefore, I want to come back to it and I want to add more, yet more, like this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And again, I just blend that gently, gently, like this. And leave it be. Where it goes up over her neck, this would be quite shaded because of the darkness of her hair. The hair would cast shadow. Therefore, on that area there, I think that would be quite dark. Come in, blend away. I also think that that would be quite dark there, where this hair is casting shadow here. I need to come in and introduce more there. And this is glazing at its best. You're adding layers now. And the key is to do it without moving too much of what's underneath. There we are, and we dry it. So I've adjusted that, I've laid in my darks, and now I need to think hard about lightening some areas and putting highlights onto it. But the first thing that we really do need to consider, light against dark and dark against light, always, always, it's the law. And by that, when I say that, we have to now consider what we do down here for the edges of the fabric and where the fabric might be here out against my background. I can't make this darker here because it's not going to show. I have to make it lighter, and my brain is clever enough to work it out. To make this fabric look as though it's out here and it's against this background, if I take white gouache, I can use that. Just a pointer here, don't put the white in your normal palette. It will give you this horrible chalky residue and you'll find that you won't be able to get rid of it. I have a separate palette for my gouache. And with this, I want this to be double cream consistency, not the thick stuff, the extra thick that you can buy at extortionate prices, but I'm looking at double cream thickness. It's got to be thin enough to move on the paper, but not so thick that it gives me dry brush technique. And with this, imagine this piece of fabric comes up and it comes out here. I put it on and then I do that because I still want to see that darkness behind. That's what I'm after. It's the same technique, but I'm using it with a different colour. Here, I'd like to see something out here as though the fabric is coming away from the body. And I do that by introducing the white and then gently bleeding it away like that, so that I can see both. I can see the white, I can see the background, and I can see her skin, all of it. And this is the joy of glazing, because you're actually looking through the colours, one through another. This is the technique to use on the dark. Here, underneath the breast, how about we just do that? And then I blend gently, gently, soften one side. And now it looks as though it's lifted away from the body and you have this fabric, but there's the edge of the skin. You can still see everything. Here we have a crease in the fabric which is dark. It's got to be dark because it's against light. But as it comes out against this girdle that she's got on, it would be light. And I'm just going to do that with it. And lo and behold, we have a bit of fabric coming out here. Let's do some over here. Keep your water clean, keep your brush clean, and you won't come to grief on this one. I want to do that, and then I get hold of it and I gently, gently just soften. And how about here? I better not, because that's wet. I don't want to touch it. I'll make it bleed and make a mess. Let's use this for some highlights. Same technique again. Have a brush full of paint. Make sure it's the right consistency for you. And this time I'm going to lay a highlight in here, and I'm going to go right through here. How about up through here? Up through. Take the damp, clean damp brush and pull it through like that. And you have a highlight. Same somewhere else. Let's go off somewhere else. We're looking at the light through here, so therefore I would have light down through there. Get hold of it, pull it. Clean the brush, come back, work somewhere else. Always, always go where it's dry. I think I'd have quite a bit of light down through this area here. So pull it through, and then clean brush, pull the ends to infinity until they vanish, down, through, down. Coffee. And you'll see in most of my artwork I will take a dark colour and I will work around the edges to tighten all of this up. I don't like it when it's ambiguous like that. Therefore, if I go back to my Payne's Grey, and again I'm using it in a thin consistency, so we're going back to single cream, and now I want to just come in here and pick that up there and just make these edges very obvious. And the whole thing then, this whole outfit will come away from the body and you will be able to see it, your brain will understand it, and it will make sense. The shadows underneath it will now make sense. You see the edge of the fabric and there is the shadow. I might have to put a little bit more shadow in under here. I don't feel that there's enough there at the moment. Sometimes you can't do that until you reach the end of the painting, and it's just a case of adjusting and tweaking. When you're painting a long line like that, use this finger to anchor yourself. I really didn't move at all. I put the finger down and I worked up and around and used that finger as my anchor. Up through here to there, stop, take a breather, and then you can reload the brush and work it from here and up, through and round. And this is why you need the single cream, because then your brush will do the whole stroke for you. And that top isn't too shoddy at all. What do you think? Come and join me next time. See what I'm up to.